Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on the Arcade Manager add-on for NewRetroArcade. Several months ago I started work on this project where I was looking to expand upon the existing arcade setup within NewRetroArcade. As it was set up at the time, there was only 35 cabinets that we could actually configure and set up, and to be honest, after setting it up and using it for a while, I kind of got a little bit bored with the setup and wanted something different. I wanted to have something fresh to play, something different. So I thought, well, why not? Let's randomize this setup. Let's expand the collection and let's create something that's unique every time you play. One of the other objectives of the Arcade Manager was to simplify the setup process as well. Using the inbuilt configuration tool, the Arcade Builder, it's reasonably straightforward, but it's quite long-winded. It takes a long time to actually go through the process and set everything up the way you want it. So what I wanted to do was to make that as easy as possible. Let's have a complete library of all the games that are out there, all the cabinet artwork, everything that's available. Store it in the one place and share it with the community. I noticed that people were sharing their artwork. Other users were having trouble actually configuring it, setting it up. There was different people with different skill levels. So why not? Let's collate it. So many of the other artists on the forums have contributed towards this pack. And at this point in time, it's now grown to 490 cabinets. So that's a game which can hold 35 cabinets and has now got 490 available within the pack. Now, the thing I would say is you're not going to like all of these games. There'll be some you really like, there'll be some you won't, but the variety within this pack is fantastic. There will be something for everyone, and it's just a matter of finding it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just show you a brief introduction to NewRetroArcade and what you actually get out the box. Now we'll take a look at what you can expect to get out of NewRetroArcade once you've applied the add-on and set up the ROMs. Okay, so now I'll take you into the tutorial. Okay, once you've finished downloading the Arcade Manager, you can right hand click on it, extract all. So you right hand click on the zip file, extract all, and then hit extract. Take a few seconds to complete. And what you'll end up with is an MSI executable, which you can run. That's just the installer package, and you'll end up with a few additional patch releases for Windows 7 users only. it's important you install them, otherwise the add-on won't run properly. So just give that a second. So that's it now completed. So you'll notice we've got a Windows 7 folder. If you're running Windows 7, just go in there, and I recommend you install the 64-bit version. If you're running a 32-bit operating system, you run that one. If it's a 64-bit operating system, you run that. Okay, so what else you have in here is you have the README file, which tells you the installation steps and the latest changelog as well as all the different contributors to the artwork and the track screen scripts as well. Okay, so let's start by installing the Arcade Manager. So you just double click on the MSI file. It then comes up with your standard setup wizard. All you need to do is go next. This is just again the README file, so you just press next. Now this bit's important. If you've got it installed to the default location, your Steam installation, then this will be correct. If you have your Steam installed on perhaps your D or your E drive, then you'll have to browse to that location and locate the content directory in NewRetroArcade. At the moment I've got it installed at the default location, so I can just press next. Okay, we'll just give that a couple of minutes to install. It'll run through the installation process, copy everything to the content directory that you require to run the add-on. Now this may prompt you for additional permissions. It says an unknown publisher. That's just because the add-on itself doesn't have a recognised publisher. So you just press yes, continue on. So what this will do is it will create a few different shortcuts on our desktop that we can then use to look at our new arcade setup. So here they are, they're now being generated. List of different files, different options for running the tool. What I would recommend at this point is to uncheck that box and just finish the install process. Now this is important because if you run the add-on at this point in time, due to a recent update in NewRetroArcade, you actually have to set up the light gun cabinet in order to make this work properly. So you just click finish, and what we'll do now is we'll actually open up NewRetroArcade, the configuration tool, through Steam. We hit play, launch the configuration tool, play, minimize. So this is the arcade builder within NewRetroArcade. So what this lets you do is do a lot of configuration and customization. So if we just expand that out, you'll notice this is the list of all the different arcade cabinets available within NewRetroArcade. So one of the things that we need to do in order to make this add-on work correctly is click on the arcade machine light gun, and the important thing here is to assign it some artwork. Now that's because the actual XML tags that are generated as part of NewRetroArcade doesn't exist at this point. So what we'll do is if we press that, you'll get the warning. Just hit OK on that, and then what it'll present you with is a list of options, a list of the arcade designs. Just pick one of them. So if we do that and we hit save and then exit, that's all we've got to do. Now If we look at the different shortcuts down the left hand side here that's been generated, you'll notice one says demo mode. If we double click that, that will run the script for the Arcade Manager. And now what this is doing at the moment is creating all the attract screen audio files for our demo mode. And now it's creating our actual video, our attract video. What it does is it collates 30 different files and puts them all together into one file. That's for performance reasons, so that the game can actually run properly. So we'll just let that run complete. Now at this point in time, I haven't added any ROMs. All I've done is install the basic game and the Arcade Manager. So what this will do is all it's doing is running through the various MP4 files for each of the attract screens. Now it's going to generate an arcade layout at random here based on the Arcade Manager, and it will launch the game. So we'll just continue on. Let's go in and have a look at our new arcade. Here we go. This is taking a while to load up. The jackal there. Nice new poster at the back as well. All our track screens are working. Everything's in place. 2 aimbot cabs down here are being replaced as well. The others are still aimbot cabs, but we'll show you how to change that shortly. Just hope they'll wander around. Let's hope not. Posters, First Blood poster, Predator 2, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, Total Carnage, Ghostbusters, oh, Jurassic Park. So great. Now, none of these games work at the moment, so what we need to do is add the ROM files. Get them working. Let's just go out. Now that's the demo mode. Now, if we run the full version at the moment, because we don't have any ROM files, it won't actually do anything. Nothing will generate. So the next thing we have to do here is add our ROM files into this, into our ROMs folder. So if we browse to standard install, which is my computer, this PC, C drive, program files, Steam, Steam apps, common, NewRetroArcade Neon, NewRetroArcade content, and there's our ROMs folder in there. Now you'll notice in here that there is some files in there. These are our attract audio files that have been generated, plus our static cabinet splash screens. But there is no ROM files in there, so first thing we need to do is introduce our ROM files. So what I'll do is I'll just navigate to the directory I've got them stored in, which is in here, Steam apps, common. So this is just my backup location, which I've got all my ROM files in. So I'll just copy this lot over, paste it in here. just let that run. Now, if you don't do this step and you proceed on to run the arcade manager, nothing will happen. It will only use the ROM files that you have got in the ROMs directory as part of the arcade manager. Okay, I'll just skip those because I don't need to worry too much about them. Okay, so now I've got all my ROMs now in the directory. So I can now launch the arcade manager, which is here. Double click that. And I get presented with a list of options. I can choose to recreate everything, which will just recreate everything in the arcade, including all my different cabinets, my posters, my tapes, my cartridges, basically the whole arcade. And what it will do by default is it will randomize that. So it will create something different every time we go through that process. Now, what you can do is you can control exactly what appears in the arcade. You can set things so that they are fixed, or you can set them up as being random arcades. Now, the way the arcade manager does this is through a number of different CSV files, and you'll see them here listed. So there's a different file for a different CSV file for the various cabinet types, the cartridges, the posters, and the tapes. So the tapes are music, videotapes, etc. So what you need to do now is you need to install a CSV editor, something like Excel, which is what I have installed at the moment, or you could download something like OpenOffice. And if you don't have Excel and you choose to go through OpenOffice, then what I would recommend doing is referring to the Arcade Manager user guide. If you look at the Arcade Manager user guide, there's steps in here which tell you about how to import the CSV file using OpenOffice. If, like me, you're using Microsoft Excel, then you can skip that step. But just refer to the user guide if you're struggling with that. So what I'm going to do is open up the cabinet list.csv file. So what we have here is all the different arcades cabinets that are available. So these are the standard arcades that are available within the add-on. So if I just expand this out slightly, we can see what's going on. I can talk you through each of the different columns here in the CSV file. So what we've got is we've got the game. This is the ROM name that's allocated to each of the different cabinets. We've got the core that it's using. So that's basically the emulator DLL file. All of them are pre-configured and included as part of the pack. We've got the game volume, and that's the actual volume as you're playing the different game. You look up to it and you actually activate it. The level, you can adjust the levels accordingly here. You've got the game image, which is the static splash screen. So that's in case you're not using the attract screen. Perhaps maybe your PC doesn't have, isn't capable of running that, has issues with the performance. Then you might want to just actually not bother with the attract screen videos. So that's the alternative, a splash screen. You've then got the screen type, which is either pixel or vector, depending on the type of game you're playing. You've then got the button layout, which is how each of the buttons are actually positioned on the cabinet itself. Now there's a separate file that controls that, which has got all that pre-configured. So if we go back to the content directory and you view the button arcade button layouts, you will see that all of these different layouts are listed within this file. You don't have to worry too much about this. It's only if you're adding new arcades that you'll want to actually include specific button layouts. There's more on the Steam forums on how to actually do that, and there's also some very good little apps that allow you to place the button layouts on screen alongside the artwork. So yeah, definitely worth having a look on the forums for more information on that. The next option there is to do with the actual button colors. So you've got button A and B, you've got button X and Y, and you've got button Start and Select. Now these are HTML color codes. You know, for people who are not familiar with them, it can seem a bit overwhelming, but it's actually very straightforward. All you need to do, if you're unsure of what the color code is, go into a web browser and type in HTML color, and lo and behold, HTML color code is there. And basically you can select colors on this list, you know, and pick one and it'll actually generate what that color code is. So there's plenty of tools out there to assist you in getting the right color for the button layouts. So the next option on the list is the actual texture file for the front panel. So this is the art front panel texture. Basically it's the front artwork associated with that cabinet. So these here are stored in the arcades folder. So if we go in here and we look for Arcade Simpsons, so if we type that into the search engine, Arcade Simpsons, there we are. So we can see there that that's the front image it's using. And if we look at the one just along, which is the side panel, you'll notice that that's the side panel. You're probably wondering what this one is in between. That's in case you don't actually want to have artwork in place. You may just want a color associated with the side or the front panel. This gives you the option to do that as well. So it's just HTML colors as well it's using. Okay. So the next thing on the list is the attract screen itself. And this is the actual video associated with it. And these are stored within, if we go back up a level into the content folder, all the attract screen movies are stored within the movies section here, and as you can see them all listed out. So we can find the Simpsons one in this list. Simpsons. There we are. So again, we can but yeah, so that refers to the attract screen. The next column is the fixed location. This is the value you put in if you want to make the cabinet fixed within the arcade. Now you'll notice that there's already some in here which are fixed. We've got the arcade machine disabled. Now that's not in Neon, it's actually in the original arcade. Now I've made that fixed cabinet out the box, and the same for the other FPS cabinets. So let's just say we wanted to make the Simpsons cabinet fixed. So what we can do in here is we can type in arcade machine 0 if we wanted to put it there. You're probably wondering where I've got that name from. Well, the name itself actually comes from Steam. So, sorry, it comes from NewRetroArcade from the configuration tool. So if we select play on that, it's basically the name beside these. So if we've got arcade machine 0, if I click on that, it's saying it's going to display that one in the bar area. So that's where it's going to make the Simpsons positioned in that fixed location. Now, if I was to then say, actually, I'll put WrestleFest, which is the next one down, in that same position, then that will generate an error as part of the build. So we don't really want to be doing that. So let's find out where we want to have WrestleFest. So I would quite like to have it there, just beside it. So let's find out which arcade cabinet that one actually refers to. So we'll get 5, 6. Let's put it in position 6, arcade machine 6. So that's just diagonally across from the Simpsons. So I'll just click on that, change it to number 6. Done. Okay, we've got the next column along is the game volume, game music volume. So that's the attract screen volume. Again, you can lower that accordingly as well in a similar fashion to the game volume. And then of course we've got the option to include or exclude. Now anything that's blank will automatically be included, so you'll see that these haven't got any yes beside them. It's only really if you put no. If you put no beside it, so if we take these two here, I've deliberately excluded them in the default setup. So both the FPS Game 1 and FPS Game 2 won't be included. So basically that's the aimbot cabinets. Okay. Now, you'll notice at the moment I've only got a few fixed location cabinets on this list. Okay. So basically anything that doesn't have a fixed location will be included in the randomize function. So arcade machine 1, for example, will be pre-populated with a random arcade from any of these options. Now that's on the condition that the ROM file listed here exists in the ROMs folder. If it doesn't, then it won't be included. So for example, if we didn't have any ROMs, then nothing would be included in the arcade manager. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't do anything. So it's important to make sure that you've got your ROM files included in the pack before running the arcade manager. So we've got Simpsons set up in arcade machine 0 and WrestleFest in arcade machine 6. So let's save that. Now in Excel it comes up with a little warning and you say yes, I want to keep it in that format. And I'm going to minimize that for the moment. And I'll exit out of this. And what we'll do is we'll recreate. I've already got that open. So this time I'm going to recreate everything. I'll press 1 and enter. Again, if you look through as it's generating the MP3s and the actual attract screen files, if you look through this, it actually tells you some more information around what's been allocated to what machine. So you see there that Simpsons has been allocated to machine 0, just as we instructed it to, and WrestleFest has been allocated to position arcade machine 6, exactly as we wanted it to. So you'll see these are the fixed cabs, and these are the ones that have been randomly generated. So you can see there Dig Dug's going into arcade machine 1, and there's a whole stack of others in there as well. So you'll notice that the special cabinets are listed here. We'll go over them in a little bit more detail, and the same with the light gun cabinets. The same principle applies for them. It's just that they're held within a different file. The reason being is to keep them separate for the purposes of the artwork, is to make it easier to maintain. So we'll just give that a minute or two to complete. And that's it. It's completed. So now we can launch NewRetroArcade. Back in the game. Okay, let's go for a wander around the arcade. Again, everything will change again, apart from those two fixed cabinets set up. So again, posters, plus blood. Again here, you can see all the different arcades have changed. Daybots are still fixed. Okay, let's walk up and have a look at our fixed cabinets. There we go, there's the Simpsons. And if we go down the other side, we have WrestleFest. So again, walk up to this, start playing WrestleFest. There's no problem, we've got the ROM set up, we're ready to go. It's all good. Complete arcade, ready to go. Let's go back and let's have a look at the special cabs. So you can ask for what's the difference between the normal cabs and the special cabs. This is the difference here. So Pac-Man here is a special cab cabinet. The RS on the side is the special cab. Let's go and have a look at that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is close out of this one. Now in Excel it always asks you to save the changes again. I've already saved them, so I don't need to this time. If I go back into the directory, content directory, see here we've got the cabinet special list. So let's open that up and have a look at that, and you will notice it's almost identical to what was in the other one. In fact, it is identical. It's exactly the same options. You can just run through them. Now, to make sure that this is working correctly, you must have a minimum of 4 of these ROM files, because otherwise what will happen is that it will only update the ones where the ROMs exist. So if we only had Pac-Man, it would only allocate Pac-Man and it would ignore the rest. So if we wanted to make one of these a fixed cabinet, so let's just do this, do the same thing as what we did for the standard cabinets. So let's play, launch a configuration tool, expand the arcade machines, and if we scroll down, you'll notice there's the 4 special cabinets. So these are the ones that we're referring to now. So special 1, which is located there. So that's the Pac-Man one that we were just looking at. So let's set that. Let's set it up to be 1942. So again, if we go into 1942, we say arcade machine special 1. So we just confirm that that matches. Arcade machine special 1. Arcade machine special 1. And let's pick another one. So let's pick the one as we just come in the door. So we come in that way and round. So, and we will set that one up to be Superman. So arcade. So arcade machine special 2. And if we save that, yes. Now, I don't have to rebuild this every time. I can actually work on multiple files at the one time and then rebuild them all once I've set them up correctly. So what I'll do here at the same time is I'll also update the light gun list as well. Now this is so I've opened up the light gun cabinet list. Again, it's very similar to the other ones. The only difference this time is that we've also got this light gun calibration, the 2 light gun calibration options. That's to control where the cursor aims when you're in your NewRetroArcade, because every game is slightly different. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to set up Terminator 2 to be your fixed location light gun cabinet. So at the moment I've got that set up to be Jurassic Park. So what I'm going to do is change that to be Terminator and save it. So you'll notice there that it's arcade machine light gun. And if we scroll up to the top, arcade machine light gun, as long as it matches. And the case is important as well. Okay, so let's save that. Hit yes. And what we'll do is we'll just minimize these. We'll exit out of that. And we will run the arcade manager again. Again, we'll recreate everything. So if we go back in, we can double check. In here, as you can see our Simpsons and our WrestleFest getting set up in the right place. We've got our 1942 and our Superman being set to our special cabs. And our Terminator 2 being set to our light gun. So again, we'll just give that a minute or two to create the attract screens. The next thing I'll take you through is expanding out to include all 35 attract screens. So that basically gets rid of the aimbot cabs that are in the fixed position, and we can then make them available within the randomizer as well. Okay, so again, let's launch. Back in. Superman, loaded in. That's working correctly. And there's a 1942 cabinet as well. Matrix. This is what I love about it, just coming in with something different every time you play. Empire Strikes Back. Okay, we've got Simpsons still in place. Now, if we go over here, we now have Terminator 2. ready to go. Okay. Okay, so let's just wander down and we'll have a look at the import cabs. Now, what I'm going to do is show you how to then remove these and actually have these as normal arcade machines as well. Okay. So they are standard cabinets, so we can open up the cabinet list. We can expand this out again. Okay. And these are here. It's fixed location cabinets. So let's delete that. And let's change this. Set these to no. 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 Because we don't want them included. Okay. If we save that. Yes. And if we run the arcade manager, and recreate everything again. And what this will do is we'll no longer have the import cabinets fixed. But what will happen is that the static rather than having the attract screen videos playing, it will actually just have static images against each of them. So I just want to demonstrate that, and then I'll show you how we go about fixing that as well. Okay, let's launch the game again. Let's see how that's changed things. So now let's have a look. So now we've got all the arcades shown, but the problem now is there's no videos. There's no attract screens on each of these ones. Now, we can add them in, but we do need to change a few of the configuration steps. So, let's go out. Let's quit. Back out. Now, what certain people have been doing is they've been running the arcade manager with the shortcut with 35 attract screens. Now if you do that, and we can just do that just now to demonstrate what happens. So again, recreate everything, and it'll process through. But what it'll do is it'll actually split the attract screens and offset them incorrectly. So you'll have half an attract screen showing. In fact, you'll see half of it in the top section, half of it in the bottom section for each screen. Now, in order to change that, there's a couple of configuration changes that you need to make to the game. I'll talk you through that just now, just when this finishes. In fact, while that's running, we can go through it. So what we need to do in order to use this 35 attract screen mode is go up a level from the content directory. Now at the moment the add-on doesn't do anything, doesn't make any changes out with that content directory. And the reason it's been designed like that is to allow you to easily back that up. So you can take a copy of that if you want, store it, restore NewRetroArcade back to its original settings, and have multiple arcades set up and configured. So what we want to do here is we want to go into this saved directory and we want to go into config and then Windows no editor. And within here there's the game user settings.ini. Okay, and watch what happens. You will notice that the track screens don't look correct, they're all offset. And it just looks like a mess. The good news is though, it's showing on these other screens now. Yeah, but it's just not quite right. So let's get that fixed. Exit the game. Okay guys, it turns out that there is an issue with the game user settings.ini file. Now what you have to do in order, this file should have values in it. If it's blank, as it is at the moment on my machine, what you have to do is you have to launch the game again. So we go in and run the game. And then what you need to do is go in to the options and just basically change one of the settings. So we just put the anti-aliasing up, we hit OK. And when we do that, what that does, it generates that file for the first time. So if I close out of that and then I load it back up, you'll see there it's now got a whole host of values in it, including the attract movie layout. So all we need to do now is we change that to number 7 to match what's in the user guide. So we save that, file save. Now if we run the arcade manager again, we launch. Now we should have all our track screens working. Continue on. Okay, so let's just try this out, make sure it's working. And there we have it. Track it's great. Now put it down here, we can have a look. And now we have the track screens working for Okay, so now that we've done that, so the only thing to be aware of is if you run the arcade manager with that shortcut instead of with the 35 attract screen shortcut, then your attract videos will become offset. So what I would recommend doing is deleting that arcade manager shortcut, or that one, depending on how many attract screens you're planning to run with. So what I would do is just delete that one off, and the randomize and play, again you've got randomize and play with the 35 attract screens, and if we're running 35 attract screens we'll just delete that shortcut, and then that gives us just the 3 left, and then we can't go wrong with it. Some of the more advanced settings in here are associated with the shortcut. You'll see here that you've got some parameters. These are more advanced features. There's more in the user guide if you want to customize any of that, to set it up to default to automatically launch the game, how many attract screens you want, if you want to run, perhaps just randomize the posters every time you go in, you can do that as well, just by changing the number there. So basically that number, it says 0 here because it's just launching and not actually doing anything. But if we wanted it to launch and perform an action, basically the number refers to the number within the menu system. So if we wanted to get it to recreate everything, which is what randomizing play does, if you look at the properties on that, you'll notice it's 1. If we wanted it to just recreate the posters every time, we could do and select number 5. Okay, so if we go back to our content folder, basically I'm just going to take you through the other CSV files in here that we haven't touched on yet. First one's the cartridge list. Most of these are just cut down versions of very, very similar versions of the other CSV files. So there's a couple of differences though. So again, you've got the name of the ROM file in the first column for the cartridge. You've got the core that it's using, so these are like the kind of Game Boy ones, emulators, the SNES emulator, and the Nintendo emulator. You've got the name of the game. You've got the texture, which is basically just the artwork for it. So again, these are contained within the cartridges folder here. The ROMs are contained within the main ROMs folder. So you see there all the different artwork for each of the different cartridges that are in the collection. The difference in this though, we've got the type, so whether or not it's a Game Boy game. So you'll notice there's no artwork associated with the game Game Bro or Game Boy type. That's just because there is no artwork actually in the game for them. So you just specify what the type is, and everything else in here is just for console. So that's what does have the artwork. It's basically all just stored in the one file. Again, you can use the fixed location in similar fashion to how I demonstrated earlier. One of the questions I've been asked a couple of times now is around the Mega Drive or Genesis console, and the fact that the latest Pico Drive emulator isn't actually working on Windows 10. That is correct, but I believe it's only Windows 10 users that are having that problem. So if you're not running Windows 10, you're in luck. You'll be able to play them. If you are running Windows 10, then I suggest just excluding them using the exclude yes no, or just not including the ROMs in the directory. Will also exclude them. So just something to be aware of there as well. Now if I go back up and have a look at the posters. Posters are pretty self-explanatory. Again, this is an even more cut down version. You've got two different poster types. You've got the portrait and the landscape. The landscape posters are only available in the original arcade, not in Neon. So you'll see here as well, we've got a couple that are set up as fixed posters there as well, in fixed locations. And that's pretty much that. So you can add more to that list if you like. So again, they're just held within the content directory, and under posters, you can expand on that list. Just add your own in here. Just be careful though and try and follow the guidelines on the forum, or the sizing options that are already in pre-existing files. If you pick something that's the wrong size, then you may have issues loading up the game. So just be aware of that. Okay, close out of that posters. And the last one, just to have a quick look at, is the tapes. So again, very similar. You've got the fixed location for them. Most of these I've just defaulted to being fixed because it just makes it easier. It means it'll play the same tune as you walk in and out the arcade. But I would suggest, if you want to customize that, you can take them off. These are just internet radio stations, and these are the videos down here. Sorry, apologies. These are the internet radio stations, and they are the actual tapes that are lying around. So you've got a choice on how you actually want that to work. Again, it's just straight from the configuration file. If you launch the configuration tool, you'll see here we've got tapes, radio stations, VHS tapes. Again, it's just using those pre-existing setups. You can adjust and add to that list if you so wish. Okay, and I've got one more feature, well, a couple more features to just show you as well that I haven't touched on yet within the Arcade Manager. We have the Manage Favorites and Import options. So one of the options that's available now is whenever you first run the Arcade Manager, it will take a copy of your original arcade. It basically backs it up and puts it into the favorites folder. So you see in here that you can see that it's taken a backup of all of mine there the first time I ran. And I can restore that at any time back to the original. We can then create a new save, which will save current arcade setup, and I'll just do that just now just to demonstrate. So if we select number 2, it'll then ask you to which save slot you would like to use. So I'm going to select option 1. And what that does is if you look in here, you'll notice I've now got a favourite 1 for all these different sorry. So I've now got the favourite 1 option saved, and basically it takes a copy of that XML file and the arcade machines XML file, and basically anytime I can then choose to load that back. So if I select option 3, it then gives me the option to load that save directly back into the arcade. It's great for customizing, setups, having multiple setups. It also takes a copy of the attract screen as well for you. The other option is where you can actually import an existing arcade into your CSV files. Options 4 and 5 allow you to do that. Option 4 will replace CSV files with what you've got already pre-configured within NewRetroArcade. That lets you take your originals and use the Arcade Manager. It's more so for the light version of the tool, which doesn't include any artwork, so you could import your existing artwork into the CSV files. Option 5 allows you to then append any existing arcade cabinets you might already have or games onto your CSV files. That pretty much wraps things up. So enjoy. Bye for now.